Talkopolis programming is sponsored by the following. Highland Hills, a multicultural, diversified funeral home supporting the entire Davidson County community. Visit our website at www.highlandhillsfuneralhome.com or call us at 615-650-5555.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into another edition of Player to Player. I am Brad Hopkins, usually alongside Derrick Mason. He is in hiatus today, so we do have a stand-in, a very credible stand-in, one that's actually breaking new ground into the world of sports talk. And I'll be honest, he is an entertainer, but I had no idea he was this articulate about the world of sports. Cowboy Troy, Warner Brothers' very own Cowboy Troy, is joining us here on Player to Player. Welcome in.
Thank you, Brad. Appreciate it.
I'll tell you what, we've been doing a couple of shows now for a couple of weeks. And not only are you abreast of all the local action that's going on, Tennessee Titans, Nashville Predators, Vanderbilt, Tennessee, the usual suspects. I mean, we were able to talk a gambit of Premier League hockey or Premier League soccer. We've talked baseball, and just really exciting to have you on here. You and I were having a pretty good conversation just about, sometimes the lure of fame and what we actually hope to achieve coming to this beautiful city, which is Music City here in Nashville. And you being an artist of sorts, I thought that your story was pretty compelling. First off, how you got there, but just kind of articulate the experience of people that are wanting to be rising stars, coming here with hopes and dreams of being the next big thing.
Well, when people come to Nashville, myself included, I mean, when we get here, the first thing you think of is, I'm going to be the person that's living in your TV set. I'm going to be that guy, on CMT or MTV or whatever. If you play rock, you'll be on MTV, that kind of thing. So people come to town and they think that I'm going to be this next super huge star. That said, you also have to realize that the music business is a very difficult industry to get into. So you have to fight like everything to get into the music business, but once you get to the music business on a national level, you have to fight like everything just to stay. Because every time you look up, there's thousands upon thousands of people moving to town every week, all of them having similar, maybe not the exact same dreams, but similar dreams of stardom and fame and that kind of thing. And so everybody's basically gunning for your spot, if you to use a sports analogy. So you have to realize that, that's going on in the backdrop. You also have to realize that when you have major network television shows that are on, like the show Nashville,
right?
It's a fictionalized view, but some of it is close in the way they depict it, but it's very interesting to see that. And so you have people sitting at home watching those programs and they see that on television and say, I want to be just like what they're doing. Some people, take it with a grain of salt. Other people saying, that's the truth. That's exactly how it is. So, you have these people at home saying, I want to do exactly like they're doing. And then you have reality-based television shows that are based upon the private lives of Nashville's own folks and their own people and people in the industry and the sports community and the other things. So they're like, man, this is really the way it is. So everybody wants to be on TV. Everybody wants to be on TV, or they want to be on the internet. They want to see how many Facebook likes they can get, or how many YouTube clicks they can get, or how many followers they get on Twitter or Google+. So you've got all those things going on, and people have this sudden, hunger for the limelight, so to speak. So that's what happens.
Bringing sports into the fold, you being a 6'5" black dude growing up in the state of Texas, I know that you knew your way around, a ball or a stick or something. I'm sure you're competing in some form or fashion in a sport.
Yeah, basketball and soccer were my sports.
So you can actually compare the two, especially growing up in that environment. Which do you think is easier to attain, a pursuit of an athletic career or maybe one in the entertainment business?
Well, I wanted to play pro basketball when I was in high school, and I realized that after I got to a certain height and I stopped where I am, I realized that, number one, I didn't have the long-range game that I needed to be a guy that's 6'5". If you're going to play pro ball, you got to have outside range, and you got to have handles on the ball. I didn't have the kind of handles that I needed to play pro basketball. So I knew that I was going to need to try something else.
Yeah.
And, listening to my folks, they're like, son, make sure you get your degree, you graduate from college and do all this stuff because you're going to need to have a fallback plan.
Right.
So, getting into music, I wanted to be in music all ever since I was a little kid. So I was like, man, when I started hearing people rap, I was like, I want to be like that. So here I am, keep going. In the back of my mind, I'm sitting there like, this is going to be cool, but I still maintain that level of education that was necessary. So,
and we'll circle back to that right there. That hick hop, which you are the innovator of, and if you want an explanation as to hick hop, we'll get that from Cowboy Troy here in just a little bit, maybe in another segment. But you're talking about playing basketball, which leads us into the Final Four discussion.
Yes.
We find UConn, Kentucky, Florida, as well as Wisconsin outlast the field to basically head down to your neck of the woods in Dallas, to play in Jerry's World. First off, the depth perception thing, playing in a virtual, an airplane hangar or something. It's like ridiculous how big that thing is.
I can only imagine. I mean, I know what it was. I know how difficult it was to try and figure out the depth perception in Skyline High School Gymnasium in Dallas, Texas, let alone trying to sit there and go into a huge stadium that's basically the size of a galaxy.
Right.
And you're sitting there trying to figure out, okay, how far am I? You're just heaving up a prayer. I mean, it's got to be nuts.
Absolutely. I can only imagine that environment too, Troy, when you're talking about 4 college programs. A few of them have been in that situation before. Bo Ryan's his first time trying to seek a national championship, first time to the Final Four. And just looking at what they actually be playing in front of that arena of upwards of 90,000 plus people in the stadium watching a basketball game.
Capacity is over 100,000.
And you and I were talking about this earlier, about the seeding in the tournament. Do you necessarily agree when you see a 7 and an 8, basically knock off the field? We've seen an 8 knock off a team that hadn't lost up to the point of reaching in the tournament. Did they get it right in your opinion?
I think they got it actually slightly incorrect.
Yeah.
Because, when I see Kentucky playing at the level that they're playing, perhaps maybe they did just turn it on at the right time, and maybe they did get their cohesion together at the right time of the tournament. I really think, though, that they probably should have gotten a higher seed.
Yeah, well, when you look at some of the programs that are involved, UConn, Wisconsin, not necessarily traditional, but obviously Florida has been on top for most of the season, and I can't even say anything about Coach John Calipari's Kentucky Wildcats. It just seems like they're in familiar territory just when they needed to get there. Just talk about basically, do you think maybe this is going to be an all-SEC championship? Could Florida and Kentucky possibly advance in the field to face each other?
I think there's a possibility of that happening. When you look at the caliber of play that is in the SEC, both on the football field and the basketball court, you got top-tier competition. I think, though, that it would not surprise me to see Kentucky play Florida. And the interesting thing about Kentucky is the fact that they're playing 5 freshmen as starters, and you also have to look at 3 of those starters are from the state of Texas. You got the Harrison twins, which are from Richmond, Texas, which is down south near Houston, and you got Randall, who is playing phenomenally well. He's from the Dallas area, so he's going to be basically playing a homecoming game. The biggest issue for him, I think, and for all 3 of those guys, is going to be all the friends coming around, and it's a homecoming kind of thing, and you're trying to concentrate on winning a championship, but everybody's wanting to call you. You get within 100 miles of hometown. You know exactly from your playing days. Everybody's calling you. Hey, man, I need tickets. Hey, man, I need tickets. Hey, man.
Yeah.
They're going to have to really hunker down and focus on playing very good matchup basketball. And I think that the first game that they're going to have to deal with, obviously, is going to be Wisconsin and Zeminski, I believe. Kaminsky. Comiskey. He's going to be a challenge for them because he's a 7-footer. He's 7 feet tall, 230 some odd pounds. He's light considering his height, but he is able to move around the bucket. He can play with the ball or without it, and he's got a range.
Kind of reminds me of a skinny Dirk Nowitzki. When you talk about his ability to handle the rock as well as shoot it. But I've also got to look at Kentucky and what they've been able to do in sort of evolving on the fly, which is developing that outside game. You talked about basically the Harris twins. Aaron Harris couldn't hit the broadside of a barn in the first half of the game yesterday. He ends up coming up with one of the biggest shots of his career to help Kentucky advance. So when you're looking at what Coach Calipari has been able to tap into, I think that these kids are finally buying into what he's saying. Maybe because Coach Cal's in familiar territory, having his team in the last 3 years, 2 of those times, he's been knocking on the door of getting a national championship.
Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a break real quick, and when we come back, we're going to have some Chris Johnson discussion. When the Tennessee Titans are on the national discussion, nowadays it ain't good. It's either Jake Locker or your phone ringing or, Chris Johnson possibly going to another team. You like how we just kept moving? That's how we do it, right?
That might be what's happening. Somebody's trying to call you.
Oh, wait a minute. I think it's Derrick Mason telling us why he's not here. Anyway, for Derrick, we've got Cowboy Troy in the building. I'm B-Hop. Keep it locked right here. We'll be right back.